Welcome to Real Estate in Real Time. I'm your host, Woody Zimmerman, here with Mark Skowalski of Remax Lakes. Welcome to the show.
Here we are. Good morning.
Here we are, yes. And, we've been talking about how it's been a seller's market for quite some time now.
Yeah, years.
Years, I know.
Not that we expected it, but years.
Yeah, it has been. But let's talk about a good time to buy.
Yeah, so we're coming into the fall,
Yeah.
right? I mean, the weather's changing. It's cooling down. High school sports is back in full swing.
Yes.
Thank God. Football's playing.
Right.
Woohoo! So that brings with it fall. And typically, the real estate market tends to slow down this time of year.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking a little bit off air before we came on, Roger and I, that there seems to be a surge.
Yeah.
We get as kids go back to school, it starts to slow down in September. And then we pick up and we get one more big burst before the end of October.
Is that because people don't want to move during the holidays, during the school season, because the kids are in a situation?
Yeah, well, they're getting focused on getting kids back to school, kids going off to college, all of that stuff.
Okay.
Buying a home, unless you really have to, isn't a primary focus at that time.
Okay.
So then we get into this, mid-September. Okay, hey, we're still in the market for a home. Let's go look.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes on through about the end of October. And the reason that it slows down at the end of October is exactly what you mentioned. People don't want to move during the holidays. They don't want to move over Thanksgiving. Their mind starts going to other things. We've got other priorities besides just buying a home. Doesn't mean there aren't buyers out there looking, but the volume starts to decrease as far as the number of buyers that are in the market.
Okay.
So, the peak season is generally March through the end of October.
Okay.
So November through February, it slows down.
Mm-hmm.
It does. There aren't as many buyers out there for a lot of reasons. In our areas, sellers are a little bit hesitant to have, if you've got a vacant house, you got to worry about snow. Granted, here it is September and we're talking about snow already,
Yeah.
but it happens. I know, boo!
Yes.
Boo! So, but just maintaining a property
Yeah.
in the wintertime is more difficult because people will traipse that snow into your house and all that stuff. So, but beyond that, I really think it's holidays. People's focus shifts from, hey, I need to buy a house, to, hey, I need to get ready for the fall season, for Thanksgiving, Christmas, and all of the things that are associated with that.
Okay.
Now, maybe this year with COVID it'll be different. I don't know. But generally, when we hit into the fall, home prices are a little bit less expensive. Now, I can't say that we've seen that, right? But if there's homes that have been on the market through the summer that have not sold,
Oh, sure. Yeah.
think about it if you're a seller. If your objective is to get that sold, and you know that the market is starting to slow, because it will for that November through February time frame, you're probably more likely to, I would assume, take your agent's advice and reduce the price on your property in order to try to get it sold.
Yeah, because you may pay that in the heating bill for the next 3 months.
Right.
Or whatever.
It's the cost of ownership that
Yeah.
a lot of people don't think about. Now, again, if you don't have a mortgage on it, people say, well, I don't owe anything on it, it's okay. Well, yeah, but you still have to keep it insured.
Yep.
Taxes are still accruing every single
Right,
day,
right.
right? The government's got to get their G's.
Of course.
We've got to pay for all the services that we get. So taxes are occurring, you're paying insurance, and as you mentioned, you're paying utilities. So, and all those things can add up. And if you're not concerned about it, it's okay. But those are things that could weigh on your mind for, hey, if I'm going to pay November through February, and, if everything's, $200 a month, well, we got November, December, January, February, we got 4 months, we got almost $1,000, $800 worth of expenses. Now, is that a big number? Not necessarily, but beyond that, it's the worry of maintaining that property through that time frame. So sellers typically, and I'm not saying all, but generally, if it's been on the market, for a long period of time, when it gets into the fall, from a buyer's perspective, you got a better chance on negotiation.
Yeah.
Which is bucking the trend of what we've dealt with, right, as a seller's market over the last 3 years.
Right.
There have not been many reductions, as even getting into the fall.
No, you've been saying this for a couple of years. I mean, there's not a lot of deals out there right now. There's just not.
There are not. And basically what we're getting to is the fact that sellers are probably tired and worn out. You know, if they've had showing after showing after showing after showing, getting ready for a showing is kind of tough, especially if you're living in there, you got kids, you got to leave the house in perfect condition, or you should leave it in perfect condition so you can try and get it sold. It wears on you over time, you know, every day. Oh, why isn't my house sold? You know, you just lay awake at night thinking, why isn't my house sold? Why isn't my house sold? So, you know, buyers are actually at an advantage when it comes into the fall of the year. Now, I'm not saying it's a 20% advantage.
No, I'm sure not.
But you know, it's more likely that you're going to get a seller that is going to be more reasonable and open to negotiation than you would when a property is brand new, fresh on the market in June. You know, when there's more buyers out there looking. So from a buyer standpoint, fall is not a terrible time to buy. The other thing that you've got, and again, it's one of these, there's going to be fewer houses on the market. Well, we haven't really experienced that either, right? Because they came on and were gone. But generally in the fall of the year, you've got fewer homes on the market, so you've got less to choose from. If you really need to move, your decision's easier because instead of having 5 houses to look at, you've only got 2.
True.
So narrowing it down to 2 versus 5 is easier from a buyer's standpoint.
Okay, and coming up, we're going to go over some terms. You're listening to Real Estate in Real Time. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're listening to Real Estate in Real Time. I'm your host, Woody Zimmerman, here with Mark Skabowski of Remax Lakes, and we're just talking about a good time to buy, and you say that fall tends to be the time when things slow down.
Yeah.
And so if there are deals out there, they tend to happen in the fall.
Yeah, you're more likely to get that in the fall and winter, absolutely.
Okay, so also, let's go over some terms, because I know a lot of these terms, you know, when it comes to agents, they all know what we're talking about. Everybody's got their own lingo. We do in the radio business as well.
Right.
But some of these terms get a little confusing. So what are the most confusing terms that are brought up to you?
Sure. So, you know, buyers are out on websites all over the place, and you see these terms, so we figured we'd explain some of them. Kosciuszko County is a little bit unique in the way that we mark properties in the MLS.
Okay.
And, you know, just a brief review on what happens. So an agent lists the property into the MLS, it goes in as active. So that's active and available for everybody.
Okay.
Once it's input into the MLS, it feeds all of those websites. And it feeds the websites with whatever information they choose to pull. So the information that's showing on Zillow may be different than Realtor.com, maybe different than Homes.com, maybe all different things.
Okay.
But basically, the MLS is the source document that feeds all of those websites. It goes into the MLS as active, which means it's feeding to all of those sites. So once in Kosciuszko County, we accept an offer, in general, if it is contingent on financing and inspections or any other type of contingency, it will get changed in the MLS to contingent accepting backup offers.
Okay.
Okay, contingent accepting backup offers.
All right.
What that means is the buyer has some contingencies in order to purchase. Now, it's not the sale of a home. We'll talk about that in a second. It is contingent on them being able to achieve financing and get their inspections done, or again, some other contingencies which are not specified. So many times we get that phone call, the property went active for 2 days. It's now contingent accepting backup offers. Hey, can I take a look at that house? Well, the seller's already accepted an offer on that. In all likelihood, that's going to go to closing. Now, there are some contingencies, financing and inspections, but many sellers won't even allow showings once it changes to that status, contingent accepting backup offers.
Okay.
Because they're sick of having people in, even if it's only 2 days. Hey, they're excited, they've got an accepted offer, we're moving on, we're going to closing.
And they're feeling confident.
They're feeling confident because they would not have accepted an offer if they had a lack of confidence in it.
Yeah.
So now, contingent accepting backup offers. There is contingent first right. Okay, that shows up in a status. So when it shows contingent first right, that means the buyer does have a home to sell in order to purchase. So if it's contingent first right or contingent sudden death, and I'll explain the difference between the two of those here in just a second.
Sounds like a football game.
I know, it does. The bottom line is, you may as well go look at those houses if you don't have a house to sell.
Okay.
So if you're a buyer that does not have a house to sell, looking at contingent first right makes all the sense in the world.
Okay.
Because essentially you could move that first right buyer out of primary position. You could. How does that happen? Contingent first right means the buyer has reserved the right, if it's 2 days, if it's 3 days, in order to remove that contingency of having their home sold in order to move forward with the transaction.
Okay.
Hopefully that makes sense. Raj, am I getting there?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So the buyer has to sell their home or at least get an accepted offer in order to move forward. The buyer has 72 hours or 48 hours to remove that contingency. If they don't, their offer is down, and now they could accept my offer, another buyer's offer.
Okay.
Contingent sudden death means they've already told the seller they can't move forward if their house does not sell. So if I'm a buyer, why not go look at it? Again, if I don't have a house to sell. Because most of the contingencies say a seller cannot accept another contingent offer. Okay, so they can't accept another offer from another buyer that has a house to sell.
Okay.
Sounds confusing, I know.
Right.
But makes perfect sense to me, but I'm in the business.
Yeah, well,
so we're trying to define that.
Yeah.
Okay? So those are the statuses that get confused the most. Contingent accepting backup offers, contingent first right, contingent sudden death. The other thing that we see in our MLS is pending. And in other counties outside of Kosciuszko County, when they accept an offer, they convert it to pending, which pending means generally there's no contingencies.
Okay.
Well, I know in Whitley County, if it's pending, they still could be contingent on financing and inspections. They just mark them pending. And the reason they do that is so once it's marked pending, it no longer feeds out of the MLS to Zillow, Realtor.com, any of those other websites. So if you're looking on Zillow and there's a house there one day active and the next day it just disappears, it's disappeared probably because it's been switched to pending. They've accepted an offer and they're going to closing.
Okay.
So pending in general means no contingencies in other counties. In Kosciuszko, we market contingent accepting backup offers.
Okay, so I guess the obvious question, why do we do it different than others?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well,
It's been done in the 15 years I've been in the business. That's why we do it.
That's an acceptable answer.
It actually makes sense because it is contingent on financing and inspections. And in the listing contract, we tell the seller we will advertise your property until it's sold.
Right.
It's technically not sold until those contingencies are removed.
Maybe I should ask, why don't they do it like we do it?
You got it. That's the right answer
Yes.
right there.
So there we go. All right, very good. Hey, well, very good information. Again, going back to the first topic that we talked about, in the fall, it's a good time for buyers. So if you got that itch,
get out there and scratch it.
Yeah, just turn it up a little bit. All right, very good. Hey, your contact information?
Sure. Website's lakes-realtors.com. Phone number's 574-834-1233. We do post this on YouTube. If folks want to go out and look for real estate in real time, you'll find us.
Yep, and you'll see our mugs on
see those
on
ugly
TV.
mugs.
That's
exactly.
right. All right, very good. You've been listening to Real Estate in Real Time. Have yourself a wonderful weekend.